Hey Rivals coaches, Zay Valor here again with more tips and tricks on 3.0 to help you make the most of the new system. So today, what I really want to look at today is how skill checks work. We've talked about ATR, those attributes, how there are attributes that benefit each play and that oppose each play. But what does that mean? Why do we want certain attributes higher than others to make our plays win skill checks? So we're going to take a look at what a skill check is, what a skill check is not, and how it affects how you'll play. So right here, I've got one of my skill checks here. You can see that I initiated the play because it's blue. It's an aggressive fight monster, so it's a tactic-based play. To the left on a skill check, you can see the ATR that benefited if you initiated. And then on the right is the ATR that is opposing it. Now, to get to this screen, what you'll want to do in post-match is click any phase. Scroll down to the bottom of a post-match and click any of the phases. It'll bring you to all the skill checks in place that happened with a detailed readout. So, what a skill check happens, it's going to compare the attribute values of those that benefit from those who are initiating to those who oppose that are defending. If it's a combat play, you will use the combined attribute value for the initiating team and then the combined attribute value of the defending team. If it's a non-combat play, such as boost XP, ward, farm for the most part, it's then going to take your combined attribute, the initiating players, against the average of the defending players. So they're a lot easier to win, but they tend to be less high impact. What it's going to then do is it's going to put it on a bar, like you can see on the skill check. You can see that those are the possible results. Blue means that I win the skill check, gray is neutral, and then red means that they win the skill check. Based on what I've seen, it looks like it may be that gray bar may be 20% or so. It seems to fluctuate a little bit. I'm not exactly sure what causes the gray bar to be the size that it is, but I will get more data and let you know. But what it's going to do then is that white arrow is going to fall somewhere on the bar. Think of it kind of rolling a dice that has 100 sides. The bigger advantage I have, the bigger my blue bar is going to be, because I have a greater portion of the two. So if it lands in the blue bar, I win the skill check. You can see in this case, I did not. I rolled very poorly. I had about a 60% chance to actually win the skill check, and I did not. Now, what I want to address right now is a misconception that this means that I am going to lose this fight. Because I'm not. If you look at this, it would appear so. My team's surprise, opponent gets free hits in combats. It can often appear like, oh man, I lost a skill check. Now that play is just straight not going to work. Oh my gosh, the RNG really messed up my plans. However, that's not necessarily the case. What happens with this bar is that each of the three parts represents three different outcomes. A blue bar represents the best possible outcome for your team, gray is a neutral outcome, and then red is the worst possible outcome for your team. However, it's going to look at the power of your team and the situation, and the best or worst possible outcome may not be good or bad for you. So in this case, I'll show you. I lost the skill check, so it looks like I would lose the combat. However, if we go into the readout here, you can actually see that their bot laner died during this fight, and I got dragon with my bot laner. From a failed skill check, I was able to get dragon, get an advantage because they died, and get extra gold and increase my power. So again, that was the worst possible outcome for me. The best possible outcome would probably result in their top laner, Emberwing, also dying, and for me to lose even less health. But because I got the red, I only got one dead, and in fact, he died to dragon, so I didn't even get the kill. So that's really what we're looking at with skill checks, and why we want our ATR to be as high as possible for plays we initiate, and then also to counter fairly well of our opponents, so we can have the best possible outcome at any one time. Now, skill checks are not a replacement for good play calling. You still have to choose correct plays to make the skill checks worth it. If you choose bad plays and still get the best possible outcome, you could still end up with a bad result. So I hope that this cleared up a little bit about skill checks and what it looks like in game to have a skill check go wrong and yet still have a good outcome, and then you can have a skill check go right and still have a bad outcome. And so you just have to know what plays to call. Play calling is the most important part of this new system. Knowing your power and what your team power looks like. You can view some of my other videos on how I determine what power looks like in the moment, and I'll probably put out a more detailed video here shortly on what I'm looking at in even further detail. But know that skill checks are amazing and will help you initiate your game plan, but if your game plan's not a winning one, they won't help you all that much. I hope this helped you understand skill checks and what the system uses ATR for now, and I hope it helps you make better decisions and see why things are happening in your games. I'll see you out there, coaches. See ya.